While the Kingdom Hearts Dark Road finale was amazing, there are still many mysteries that are unanswered that we gotta talk about. But really, what would another Kingdom Hearts game be without more questions? Anyways, let's talk about them. So one of the biggest things that I am wondering from Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, it had many scenes where we cut to the future, where we were moving around time periods, 1 year later, 7 years later, 9 years later, etc, etc. And during one of these moments, what I would assume to be the scene that would happen before Eraqus and Xehanort would leave Scala and Caelum fully, it seems like they have a falling out. Now this falling out was talked about in Birth by Sleep Xehanort reports, or alluded to based on their differences, but we actually do get to see them kind of start what would end up being a fight. This would probably be their first major conflict with each other, I would imagine, and will lead to kind of their awkward history down the line, which will lead up to Birth by Sleep and them eventually making up again. And the reason I say this fight is a mystery is because we got no follow-up on this. While the viewer could probably predict and make assumptions about what happened based on the current Kingdom Hearts lore we know, I still would have liked to have seen this first interaction, this first fight between them kind of flesh itself out, see exactly what they talked about, where Xehanort's mind was at during his younger years as he was leaning a little bit more towards the darkness, which we got plenty of that in Dark Road. But this many years later, did anything change? How exactly did their relationship start to deteriorate? Because based on what we saw during the ending of Dark Road, after everything that happened with Baldr and the other classmates, upperclassmen, while Xehanort and Eraqus were grieving separately, they clearly were still friends, and Xehanort still clearly was motivating Eraqus to keep doing what he was doing, was still trying to be a friend for him overall. So what happened to lead to them fighting in their first encounter? I just really want to know about that. Now, a follow-up question to this that I think makes sense is what happened to Scala at Caelum. Now this may be something that isn't specifically supposed to be talked about in Dark Road, as when you think more about Dark Road, it's more of a story about Xehanort and Eraqus, not necessarily about Scala at Caelum, while Missing Link will probably be a story that's a lot more about Scala at Caelum itself. I'm assuming what happens to Scala is that Xehanort and Eraqus were likely some of the last students to ever be taught there, as Master Owen's one of the few teachers we ever saw. They're the only teacher we saw there during Dark Road times, and with pretty much every other character we knew about dying, it seems entirely possible that they're some of the last ones who were trained Keyblade wielders there, as when they went on to have their own apprentices, they would be way older. But it's very likely that Scala at Caelum has a perfectly fine society that isn't just full of Keyblade wielders, so maybe the people who are not Keyblade wielders are still living there and are still functioning today. Maybe even some of the old people still have memories of what happened today, which will lead to people like Kairi's grandma and whatnot. Again, Missing Link will probably expand on this story based on what I'm expecting from it, and will probably cover more about Scala at Caelum as a society rather than focusing on specific characters. So moving past that, how does Xehanort retain memories that should belong to the player himself? This is another question I have. As much as I've rewatched these cutscenes, the answer hasn't fully clicked with me, so I'm wondering if I just missed something or if it's something that's supposed to be explained later down the line. I'm thinking it might be something to do with Xehanort inheriting the memories from his grandfather Ephemer, or it could be something to do with the player and Xehanort's hearts being deeply connected. I could see this being expanded upon fully in Missing Link, as Missing Link is about bloodlines, and we'll probably see what the player would end up being turning into the blue robe figure. And since we're talking about bloodlines in that game, we'll probably see a lot more of Ephemer's lineage, Brion's lineage, etc, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if some seeds were planted purposely for Xehanort so that he would go down this route. Maybe Luxu is involved. Master Odin. Yeah, that's about it. I'm imagining now that he's his own character, but I still want to learn even more about him, which is another thing that I think we'll be getting more of in Missing Link. Wow, the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm realizing they just set up a lot of things for Missing Link. Now, of course, if we're talking about mysterious things in Kingdom Hearts games, we have to talk about Luxu, or Braig, or Braig, or Xigbar. This character is always a mystery, and that's why I love him so much. While there isn't much to discuss as far as his role in Dark Road, I am curious about what happens to the characters he possesses after switching bodies, but that answer might be too dark even for this game. Well, I'm definitely curious as to if he just immediately becomes Braig after Bragi, or goes into another body during Xehanort's younger years, because there is a pretty large period of time after what we see in the ending of Dark Road and what we end up seeing in Birth by Sleep. It's probably unnecessary, but I would like to know all the people Luxu ends up possessing at some point, because I feel like I just like Luxu that much, so I just want to see more of him. That's mostly where that comes from. Now, a topic I am still pondering to this very moment: the Child of Destiny. The player is very, very sure of Xehanort's destiny, like extremely sure of it. But what Xehanort ends up doing isn't quite what they would have imagined, I would feel like. But from a certain point of view, you could say Xehanort was fighting for light all along, just from the dark side. A different point of view. While it doesn't justify much of anything he did, it is a perspective they may intend. The real description of the Child of Destiny probably would fit Sora the most, at least as far as we know, but I imagine that is supposed to be the case. I don't think they'll ever make Sora the literal Child of Destiny, as that would partially go against his character's intentions of being just a good-hearted kid, not because he was born to be, but because he chose to be. I think, as a little slight mention, because I still am trying to analyze this a lot more, I do think there's a little bit more of a mystery surrounding Baldr's darkness, as they portray it in Dark Road. They try to bait you and say that this is the true darkness that Master Odin was alluding to during the game, and it's slightly iffy whether it is the true darkness or just Baldr's extremely powerful darkness, which I think that's mostly what it is. But Baldr having darkness this powerful, I'm wondering if it has any major purpose or major meaning going forward in the story, or if this is supposed to be like a omen, like a thing that's saying darkness is in fact coming back, like something alluding to what's going to be happening in Kingdom Hearts 4 and so on. You could say that the darkness that Baldr has being this strong, this powerful, kind of just talks about what the upperclassmen were saying, that Xehanort and Eraqus were talking to the passed away ones, how they were saying that light and darkness is really just a matter of perspective at that point. I don't know, I might be reading way too deep into it. Now, that would do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those are just some very surface level mysteries that I wanted to discuss from Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. Tell me some of the things you are questioning that you think are mysteries that still are unanswered in the finale down below in the comments. Otherwise, if you enjoyed today's video, you already know what to do. Leave a like, share it with a friend or family member, and last but not least, if you have not already and want to become a part of the union, all you have to do is hit that red subscribe button down below. My name is Prodigy, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out to you guys. Bye.
Now she's a daydreamer. She's always thinking about him. No more room in this picture for you to fit in. Now she's crying on the phone, telling you she's not good enough for him. When you think that she is